All right, we're back in the zone here in the Justice Department, defying a federal judge's order today to provide information about the Maryland father who was wrongfully deported to El Salvador, saying it was, quote, impracticable to respond just hours after the Supreme Court upheld an order requiring the Trump administration to facilitate his release and bring him back to the United States. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, arrested by ICE in Beltsville last month, despite having legal protection. Joining us now is a professor of law at Cleveland State University, Milena Stereo. Good to see you and have us back here on the DMV zone. Let's talk about this case, because clearly there's a lot of back and forth. It's hard to keep up here. But the latest we heard was essentially the government here defying the judge's orders, even though the Supreme Court said you must respond.
Yes, that is correct. As of last evening, the Supreme Court issued an order where it directed the Trump administration to respond to this district court's order to facilitate the return of Mr. Garcia to the United States, as Mr. Garcia had been deported due to an administrative error, and the government had conceded that this had been an administrative error. This morning, the district judge then scheduled a hearing at which the government was unable to provide the judge with information as to Mr. Garcia's whereabouts, nor was the government able to update the judge as to the steps that it had taken to facilitate his return. The latest we know is that the district judge has now ordered the government to appear before the judge on a daily basis and to essentially provide information to the judge on a daily basis as to what it was doing to facilitate Mr. Garcia's return to the United States.
So how long could the government show up before this district judge and say, our daily update is we don't have an update? How long could that go on for?
That could presumably go on for several days or several weeks. The judge is requiring this daily update exactly to put pressure on the government, because the hope from the judge, at least, is that the government is going to ultimately say, okay, we actually do have to comply with this order and we are going to have to do something about this. So the judge is putting pressure on the government, requiring a daily appearance by the government lawyers before this judge and inquiring on a daily basis as to exactly what the government is doing. But as of today, the government basically said, we don't have this information. The government lawyer who appeared before the judge said, Your Honor, I'm really sorry, but I don't have this information. I can't give you this information. And so there is really nothing that the judge can do to force the government lawyers to divulge this information other than requiring these daily appearances. Obviously, we all hope that the rule of law is followed. The Supreme Court has spoken. The Supreme Court has indicated that the government should follow the district judge's order.
And again, as we go back, if there is no update here, there's going to be another hearing next week. And then what? Is El Salvador, what are our laws with El Salvador? It seems like we have a pretty friendly relationship here. It should be a lot easier to bring this man back. And yet still, we've got the Supreme Court and the district court telling El Salvador what to do.
Yes, so presumably there will be another hearing on Monday, because, again, the judge has now ordered the government to appear on a daily basis. So there will be a hearing on Monday, on Tuesday, or on Wednesday, until this person is actually returned to the United States. Now, as to what we can do vis-a-vis El Salvador, I do think that there are several options. One is that this type of an issue can always be resolved on a diplomatic level, president to president. And as you correctly indicated, our government has a friendly relationship right now under President Trump with the president of El Salvador. So this can be resolved on a diplomatic level. But most importantly, our government actually has an agreement with El Salvador whereby El Salvador has agreed to hold these individuals that the United States has deported on allegations of terrorism at this special terrorism prison in El Salvador. And El Salvador has agreed to hold them for up to a year. And after the year, it's going to be decided as to what happens to them. So pursuant to that agreement, the United States actually still could demand the return of these individuals detained at that terrorism prison where Mr. Garcia actually is. So in this particular case, the United States could go to El Salvador and simply demand his return back to the United States.
Milena, worst case scenario, because I think we have to get ahead of where we are now, because this could go on forever, as we know. Could the government be held in contempt of court, and what would that look like?
Yes, the district court could decide to hold government officials in contempt of court. Now, normally when an individual attorney is held in contempt of court, that can mean sanctions, but it can also mean jail time. You cannot exactly jail the government. You can only jail individual attorneys. In this case, the judge could, though, issue a contempt order against the government, which would be embarrassing for the government and which would hopefully force the government to at least provide information as to where this individual is and what the government is actually doing to bring him back. But this could go on for quite some time.
All right, so we're hoping for that next update. When we say daily, does this mean business days, or are we talking every 24 hours?
It usually means business days. Courts are not open on Saturdays and Sundays, and so this would mean the next hearing would be on Monday.
All right, we'll wait and see what happens then. Milena, thank you for breaking that down for us. We appreciate it.